news and traffic, Mulcair and Mennie, Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. It's all here on one big show. Montreal on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Right. Yeah. That is James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, do you like our new promo?
Is that like a cougar in the background?
No, that's a woman yelling at a customer service rep that we played yesterday and took that part out of.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
People seem to really, really like it, especially Natasha.
Oh, God.
All right. I want to start by talking to you about this thing I'm reading. I just saw Paul St. Pierre Plamondon's Twitter post on this big meeting he had, of course, with Francois Legault today, presented 8 points. I'm sorry, Jim, I can't help but thinking to myself that Legault was probably sitting looking at his watch for most of that meeting. So what do you think?
Well, here's the thing, though. This is what gets me, because I guess when you have a caucus of, your entire caucus could be driven around in a smart car, okay? So
That's true.
You grab at whatever straw you can. But listen, the guy's no fool. I mean, he actually, when he came out, he says, well, I like to be, try and be realistic, but let's face it, this is just a public relations exercise. Do you think? So now Legault is going to have 4 little pictures on his Facebook page, framed in precisely the same manner, so you're going to have Marc Tanguay, Saint-Pierre Plamondon, Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, and, it's theater. I mean, I know I use that word a lot, but unfortunately, it's the most apt to use. There's no real change, and the question now, though, and I've alluded to this in the past, it's back to school next Tuesday. The assembly resumes sitting on the 31st, God help us, Tuesday. So but in the meantime, the CAC has this caucus meeting, and it's not so much, I think, what the leaders of the opposition parties are going to say. I think we got to keep our eyes open to see if this caucus meeting turns raucous, because we got 90 seats. And a lot of those MNAs are newbies. This is their first real foray into politics, and who knows where this is going to go. I know that Francois Legault is going to go in. That Justin Trudeau, he's the gift that just keeps giving. So for sure, even though he was kind of easing up on healthcare funding, increases in healthcare funding from Ottawa, now he's got the notwithstanding clause to, twirl around his head like some saber and say, look, we're under attack, whatever. Because no one loves the perception of being surrounded and assailed and under siege than Francois Legault. And I'm sure this is the message that will be conveyed. But man, oh man, I'm kind of, it's, Every day now, at least for the first, for this session, I think every day is going to be potential Christmas morning, because you don't know what these MNAs are going to do. They've gone to boot camp. They've got their training. I'm sure they're very grateful to the Coalition Avenir Québec for getting them elected. But all that said, I'm not entirely sure, out of all that number, that everybody is going to keep their mouths shut about all the things that are going on, and sometimes some of the apparent contradictions to what's going on, because one day Francois Legault is making nice with Ottawa. Yeah, it looks like we seem to be close, and the next day his head's exploding. And I think after a while, especially if you follow it on a regular basis, but even if the only time you see Francois Legault is in these two extremes, either exploding head or just swooning over how dreamy Justin Trudeau is, I think people are going to say, there's a little too much mise en scène here. Why am I still waiting like 86 years to see a nurse in a hospital? Yeah.
So you're basically saying watch out for the raucous caucus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And if you want to make up T-shirts for that, Aaron,
perfect.
You have my blessing.
The raucous caucus.
What else rhymes with caucus?
It's a little too wordy for me in there, Jim.
Feeling provocative somehow.
A little bit. Let's move on, Jim, and talk about something else, which is
Roxham Road?
I guess Roxham Road, and because it's sort of back in the news again.
Oh, this is the thing. Roxham Road, though. Guys, I had a little epiphany of my own. Like this past weekend, Justin Trudeau has an epiphany about, fundamental rights. No. We got to send all these notwithstanding clause usages. We should send those to the Supreme Court. And he says that in an interview to Radio Canada. and everyone's freaking out. And we just mentioned how Francois Legault was freaking out. Doug Ford seems rather more restrained, but he's got a little more on his plate perhaps than Francois Legault. But here's the thing, guys. Back over the course of the Christmas holidays, while some people on this show were out gallivanting and cavorting over the Christmas holidays,
yes, yeah.
Others of us stayed at our posts and kept an eye on the government.
Thank God
and
for that.
A few days before Christmas, Justin Trudeau gives this interview to Radio-Canada, and he says, we are close to an agreement with the U.S., safe third country, and we'd like to think that very soon we're going to be able to be in a situation to turn back people from Roxham Road. Now, it's interesting that he said this, first of all, to a French language news network, but there was no doubting what he said. So everyone's kind of scratching their heads over this, especially since a few weeks earlier, in early December, Marco Mendicino, the federal public security minister, told reporters, well, we're very close to a deal, and I think we're talking about a matter of maybe a month now. It could be very, very close. At which point, before the Radcan interview, Justin Trudeau goes, oh, no. I would not go that far. Let's take our time. There's still a lot of things done, very complex negotiations, blah, 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 blah. Today, Immigration Minister Sean Fraser says, if you think we're going to get a deal with the U.S. over Roxham Road by the time that Biden comes to visit in March, that ain't going to happen. So basically, over that entire time period, okay, that sort of like 6 weeks time period, Justin Trudeau hasn't really said anything. He said, well, maybe we're going to be pushing people back, but now all of his entourage is saying, no, remanaging our expectations, even though this is a real sore point in Quebec. Not so much about the immigration itself, but the fact that Quebec gets stuck with the cost of accommodating and making sure these people, are not winding up on the street. I mean, Quebec is bearing the bill for that. They get reimbursed by Ottawa, but it is an expense that Quebec needs like a hole in the head. But you take that situation, and you look at what happened in the past 73 hours with Trudeau talking about the notwithstanding clause, and you realize, especially on Monday, look at what he said on Monday. He hasn't said anything different, guys. He just keeps the same. Well, if there's a Bill 21's before the courts, and if it gets to the Supreme Court, well, we'll involve ourselves at that point. Well, that's a bit different from saying we should, send a reference or whatever. The Supreme Court should take a look at the use of the notwithstanding clause. But it's kind of weird because he seems to I know he's big on the environment, but he seems to like to recycle his quotes without, pretending they're new. But then you discover after maybe a day, he hasn't really said anything that different at all. It's almost as if politically he's just a one-trick pony. And in fact, the pony only has 3 legs. So it's getting kind of scary here because the next time Justin Trudeau opens his mouth about anything important, you have to wonder, is this new? Will this go anywhere? And should, for example, if we look at the notwithstanding clause, should people whose lives are being affected by Bills 21 and 96 have any confidence whatsoever in anything that Justin Trudeau has to say?
I just want to add to that. It's funny, when we talked about this the other day, I guess it was yesterday, and some people actually texted in saying, you know what, you're being too hard on Trudeau. We should at least give him credit for standing up and saying something. Where are you on that?
Oh, come on.
I'm telling you, this is what texters sent us.
But this is part of the problem too, right? I mean, maybe I'm too big a nerd. Maybe I pay too much attention on a daily basis. Okay, we're not talking about your favorite color of broadloom. We're not talking about some subjective kind of choice that isn't going to make a big deal in people's lives. We're talking about fundamental rights, and whether those are rights of religion or constitutional guarantees given to the English community, to Anglophones in Quebec. This is something that you're not supposed to be tampering with. And I know there's a backstory about the notwithstanding clause, and it was Trudeau Sr.'s basic deal with the devil, if you will. He wanted the Constitution back so badly, he had to throw this in, this ridiculous thing where a provincial government can turn your rights off and maybe back on again if they feel like it. It's absolutely preposterous. And as I have always warned, this is not just about religion. It's not just about language. It's about any right you care to name. There's no limit on that. So basically, you either believe that fundamental rights should be protected from the get-go, or you don't. And quite frankly, I did not get the impression from Justin Trudeau, and to be fair, Jagmeet Singh, or from Pierre Poilievre, that the three of them give a damn about rights being overridden, at least in Quebec.
Okay. James Mennie says it like it is. Thank you, Jim.
Adamant.